Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the latest in our series of weekly careers webinars brought to you by the Hertfordshire Opportunities portal. That's www.hopinto.co.uk. My name is Gareth Dace, and today's session will focus on careers in the construction and built environment industry. I'm delighted to be joined by three panelists whom you will hear from very shortly. Firstly, though, I just want to direct you to the HOP website. This may be something you've seen before, or it may not be. It's something we've been promoting throughout our schools in Hertfordshire that we're working with. So the HOP website is most relevant for young people studying at schools or college in Hertfordshire. It contains live job vacancies from throughout the county, as well as a host of information about the key employment sectors that we're trying to promote, and that we know that there are going to be lots of jobs coming up within the county in the future. So hopefully really relevant for people coming through school at the moment. You can hopefully see this on your screen at the moment. You can just see the interface of how it looks, and we're just giving you a bit of a tutorial here for how you could find out about a particular sector. And of course, we're going to focus today on construction and the built environment. So the screen you're saying will show you there how to click onto the built environment. And then this screen that you can see at the moment will then explain to you the different sorts of careers available within the industry. For example, you can see that 38,000 people currently within the county are employed within this industry. And you can also see that 125% figure means that it's something that there's even more jobs within Hertfordshire proportionally than in the rest of the country as well. So it's a very relevant industry for you all to be finding out about today. And then by clicking through as well, you could have a look and read up on all of the different aspects of construction and built environment that are included within the industry that you may be interested in. We're obviously going to explore these today. Specifically, we're going to have a think about careers as a surveyor and as a civil engineer in particular. The purpose of today's session is to give you the opportunity to hear firsthand from people currently working in the construction and built environment industry. We hope that you will leave this session feeling a lot more informed about the opportunities available to you and the steps that you might want to take to get there. We also hope that you'll feel really inspired and sold that this is the industry for you, that you want to go and spend some time in your future careers in. To get the most out of the session, we encourage you to interact with us as we go through. So we'll do that in a couple of ways. Firstly, there will be, I think there are 3 polls that we're intending to send out today. Hopefully these will appear on your screens now, and then you will have the option of voting. So there should be a poll on your screen at the moment, which is asking you what aspects of construction and the built environment are you most interested in finding out about, and you should have the opportunity now to click on one of those options just to tell us. So if I could ask you if you've got access to that poll now. I can see that, yeah, some of you are able to vote now. Then just put that in for us. All these are anonymous, by the way, so it's not going to reveal who you are and who submitted which answers. The other way that we're going to ask you to interact today is by submitting some questions or giving us some feedback. So Will, Kai and Sam, who you'll hear from shortly, these are the experts, because these are the guys that are working in the industry at the moment. And we want you to ask them questions as we go through. So these may be questions that you've already thought about, or they may be things that you think of as we're talking through this afternoon. To ask a question, you're going to do this via text. So again, you're going to be anonymous within this. We're not going to know who you are. We're certainly not going to see you or hear you. So the way that you do that, on the dashboard that you should have, there's a questions tab on there. If you click on that, then that will bring up a little text box where you can submit questions. Let's say these do come through privately, so no one else watching today. There's about 12 of you currently live watching this one. That number will probably go up a little bit as we go through. It will come through to me, and then I will direct it to whoever I think will be the most relevant person to answer that one. Question just come in now. What is the website called? So it's called HOP. So that's HOP, HOP into INTO. Perhaps Mia, could you just put the slide up again, just showing the main interface for HOP? We can show it to you there. There you go. Yeah. So if you look in the taskbar there, hopinto.co.uk. Hopefully it's a really useful website for you. Thanks for submitting that question as well. It proves to us that it's all working. So first of all, I'm going to allow my panelists to introduce themselves to you. So starting off with Will, who's in the top left-hand corner here. Do you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Will?
Yeah, I'm Will. I work for Osborne Infrastructure. I am a apprentice site engineer. I am completing a level 4 in construction management at Oaklands College.
Thank you very much. And Kai, if you'd like to do the same, please.
Yep, so my name is Kai Whiting. I'm a quantity surveyor and apprentice working at a line, working on a section C1 of HS2, and I've just finished my level 4 apprenticeship in construction management and about to move on to my level 6 apprenticeship in September.
Okay, we'll definitely want to explore that a little bit further later in this session. And Sam, could you tell us a little bit about your role, please?
Hi everyone, it's nice to meet you. My name is Sam French. I work for the same company as Kai. I work for a line joint venture. We're providing the C1 section of the High Speed 2 railway project, which is a very, very exciting prospect. And we're actually based in Hertfordshire at the moment, so we'll be telling you about that. My role is Skills, Employment and Education Manager for the project, which means that we ensure that we engage with schools, universities, colleges, to give them access and opportunity to understand the kind of opportunities that we give and that are within our industry. It's nice to meet you all.
Thank you to all of you. So just to summarise those, Will will be able to talk more specifically about life as a civil site engineer. Kai likewise about being a surveyor, and Sam will be able to inform us a little bit more generally about careers within the construction and built environment industry. So on that note, Sam, could you talk us through the range of careers that are on offer and the opportunities available within the industry, please?
Certainly. When people say the word construction, they might think of house building or building a leisure centre or a library. The fact that we're calling it built environment suggests that it's broader than that. Myself and Kai work in what we call the infrastructure industry or the civil engineering industry, and we build structures that change people's lives. So what we're doing here is changing people's lives by creating a railway between London and Birmingham and further. So, we build railways, we build roads, we build aqueducts, we build things that make people's lives better. So in construction, I guess people will think about the trades. So we're looking at carpenters there, perhaps brickwork people, people who work on the tools. So that's the kind of trades area for people that are really practical. In the civil engineering, built environment and civil engineering area, the main occupational areas are civil engineer, and you will hear from Will later on, who can tell you more about this, being a civil engineer. These are the people that plan, design and manage the actual structures that are being built. You'll learn more about that from Will. The other prime area, and we're very lucky to have Kai with us as well, is about quantity surveying. So every structure that you build needs cost control. And that's what quantity surveyors do. They're all about the money. They're all about controlling the cost. But much more than that, and Kai will tell you more about that later. Also in our industry, you have people who have not only scientific backgrounds, but also creative flair. So one of the roles that's really important in our industry is design consultancy and design management. So this is for people who have got a maths background, maybe a bit of sciences, but also like the creative side. So these are people who coordinate all the work required during construction and infrastructure projects, and they manage production of the technical drawings and plans, and they bring all of that information together to help inform the actual construction phase, the actual build phase. Salaries for a design manager are starting salaries around about £25,000 a year, but you can go up to, particularly with the big consultancy design companies, you can get up to £90,000 a year. So that's at really the top of the range. So the broad range there within design and construction and engineering. Another really exciting area that I'll be talking about, which is relatively new in our industry, is all about the new technology areas. One particular role you might be interested in is a BIM technician. Building is BIM technician, that stands for Building Information Modelling, and it's using computer technology, programs such as CAD, to pull all the information together about a project into one design, and that kind of information will come from architectural drawings, from components requirements, from materials information, and from build procedures. So that will all be fed in and give us models on how to manage and engineer and construct the structures in the best way possible. If you're thinking about BIM technician, if you're interested in new technology, the salary there, the starting salary will be around £20,000 a year, but it will go up to £50,000 at the top of that range. So that's the kind of salary there. And the last area I'd like to talk about, people don't often think that we do anything else but engineering and cost control, but we really do. So BIM technician is on the technology side. On the environmental side, we have a huge environmental advisory team here. So these are people who really care about the environment, who care about sustainability, and they make sure, they work with the engineers really closely to make sure that the infrastructure projects comply with environmental regulations and targets, and they strategically plan ways to keep air pollution, water pollution, noise pollution to a minimum. They work with local stakeholders to make sure that we do the best job that we can with environmental regulations and reduce waste, reduce material use, and ensure that waste is disposed of correctly. So the salary for an environmental advisor might be around £20,000 a year, a starting salary, up to £45,000 at the top of the range. In all of the kind of roles that I told you about, there is also a couple of routes to get into the industry, one being a degree, an undergraduate degree, which many of you would be interested in, but also each of them have a degree apprenticeship route, which is where you can study and learn at the same time while you earn, and that's a route we might explore later. So there are 5 areas within our industry. Over to you, Gareth.
Thank you. And so there's you just talked about degree apprenticeships, and we've had a question come in already about that, so I'm going to hold that one back because we are going to talk in some detail about both Will and Kai's question about their career routes as an apprentice. So I will definitely ask that question that's come in, so thank you for submitting it. Just to let you know, the poll that we put up at the start of it, about half of you that responded to that one have said engineering is the aspect that you most want to find out about, and then it was split between surveying, not really too sure which area of construction and built environment I'm going to go into, and equally there was equal number of responses around sort of nothing specific, that you just want to find out things in general. So with that in mind, Will, it's probably good that I bring you in here. So can you tell us, what does a site engineer actually do? Talk us through your average day.
Information from the designer who will have designed.
Oh, we're having some problems with Will's connection there. So I'm just going to put Will on mute. Let me bring Kai in, and we'll come back to Will in a minute. So bear with us, Will. Kai, think about your role as a surveyor. Then talk us through what you do on a daily basis.
Yes, I think a good sort of summary is like we manage the payments, the changes on site, and sort of the contractual communications between us and the client and our subcontractors, who are the people who we actually get to do the work. So that's involved sort of drafting the communications to them, creating, assessing quotations on what's changed, and then creating and assessing payment notices and applications for payment, which basically sum up the price of the works we've done to date.
Okay, and I mean, so where do you go? I appreciate at the moment you're probably working from home because of the situation we're in, but in normal circumstances, where would you go every day? Do you your office space? Are you on a site? Are you in PPE? What does your day look like?
I'm based on site. I'm back on site now, luckily, and but I'll spend most of my time in like the site offices located on site, but not often. I get out on site in my PPE and have a look at what's going on, but I'll try and do that every now and then, see what the progress is, and try and keep myself up to date. More importantly, because there's a lot going on out there, so you need to keep on top of it.
Yeah, and tell us, where is your office? Where would you go? It's
in sort of close to Rickmansworth and Denham, sort of in between the two. Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's like half an hour journey drive in, so it's not too bad.
Good. Okay. All right. Thank you. Well, let's have another go with Will. Hopefully, the connection will be slightly better this time. Might be afraid. Will, could you have another go just explaining what you do as a site engineer? Oh, I think he's frozen there. So, Sam, so I'm going to put you on the spot here with your knowledge of what a site or civil engineer would do. Can you just tell everyone what does that role actually look like?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can, Will. Yeah. Let's have another go.
So, okay. A site engineer will have information given to them by the designers. This will be either drawings or 3D models in our computer-aided design software. We will then get this information, look at it on site, and we will take the information we're given, and then we will put it in our machine and go and actually put it out onto the floor on the site to show the people who are actually building it where they need to start building. So if they need to take ground away, if they need to build the ground up, if this is where they need to sort of put the concrete, we will effectively tell them everything of where they need to position what we're going to build.
Yeah. And I mean, for you, what are the most enjoyable elements of your role?
I really enjoy working in a team. So I really enjoy working in a team. So being able to be outside with the team, and sort of we always will come across problems. So again, I love problem solving. So it's not a case of giving up if we can't build it there or if there's something in the way. We work around it, problem solve as we're going, and we will always get it built eventually.
Yeah. Okay. And what about the particular project that you're working on at the moment? Tell us more about that.
Right. So I am working on a new bridge up in Hoddesdon.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're getting a slight lag, Will, so we can hear you, but it doesn't necessarily correspond with them.
I'm working on a new bridge.
Apologies here. Clearly, the sound and the connection isn't quite as we would have liked it to be. I know Will's answer this one, or what he's trying to tell you is he's working on the construction site of a bridge in Hoddesdon, which is up in Broxbourne at the moment. Let me go back to Kai, because your sound quality is very good and staying with us at the moment. What are the challenging elements of your job as a surveyor? What are perhaps the bits that people may not like or may not find so enjoyable?
I think being on a job like this one, there's a lot of complex information to handle, and it's not sort of big sums of money to deal with every day. So there's a lot of work that goes into that, and it's never straightforward. If there is a change, it's a complex one, and I think as well as with that is that you have a lot of busy periods around payments and things like that. So obviously where we assess the payments and issue it to the client and issue to the subcontractors, that's probably the busiest sort of periods, which involves a lot of long days in early and sort of leaving late.
Yeah, okay. And let me ask Sam a question now for you. What are your current needs as an industry? What sorts of jobs do you know, and you've alluded to this earlier, I think, but specifically, what are the sorts of roles that you're going to need going forwards?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
So the roles going forward, they're going to be moving in the area of new technology. As I said before, BIM modelling is becoming the future of our industry. We need more people who are highly computer literate, who are really very comfortable with different software packages. that is the way that our industry is going. In the last 5 to 10 years, I worked on the Olympic Build project, which was 2009, and the way the industry has changed since then, it really is an area for young people to get into. I know that Kai and Will have told us how exciting construction and engineering can be. Perhaps more about that later. So the area of new technology, BIM modelling, is very important. You know, we're doing a lot of augmented reality kind of modelling to show people what the finished structure, for example, what the railway will look like, and we'll be putting this information into software to show people what the bridge will be looking like. And this is how we engage our communities. This is how we instruct our subcontractors, which are the level of people building the project below us. We tell that level of people what to do, and we can show them exactly what we mean by getting it on a 3D model. So I think the industry is really crying out for people with an interest and a hunger for new technology. Another area that we're looking for is an increasing amount of people with people skills. So we not only need engineers and quantity surveyors, which are our key roles, but I told you before about the environmental advisors. We have community stakeholders. We have people like me that make sure that when we build a big structure, we also involve the community. We also give economic and social benefits to those that live around the local area. Hence why we're speaking to you today. It's very important to us to be accessible. So people with people skills is also a very important skill for the industry. As Kai and Will have already told us, we all love working in construction in the built environment because every day is different. And as Will perfectly said, our job is problem solving. Every minute of every day, there is a problem that hasn't been come up with before. We do have systems and processes in place, but the exciting thing about my job, about Will's job, about Kai's job is that every day is different. Every situation is different. And our job is to problem solve. So if you, as people looking to find a career, if you think you're good at problem solving or getting a way around things, not giving up, you know, if somebody hasn't responded to something, that's not really the end. What you have to do is continue until you solve that problem. And that's what makes us come to work every day, along with the fact that it's a really fun environment. As Kai said, it can be long hours, but the pay is very good, it's well rewarded, and it is incredibly exciting. So we're really looking for people with a really can-do attitude, an approach to solving problems, which is I won't give up until this is done, an ability to enjoy that, to feel at the end of the day that they've achieved something, they've found a way around a problem, and at the end of the day, when you've built that bridge, when you've built that motorway, when you've built that railway, you can drive past it with your family and say, I built that, or at least I had a part in building that. And that's why we come to work every day. We really enjoy it, and it is about teamwork, having fun, and hard work.
And you talked about problem solving there, and hopefully Will has managed to problem solve and got his Wi-Fi connection a little bit stronger. If it doesn't work now, it cuts out again, we're going to challenge you again to overcome that particular problem. Kai, I've got a question for you coming up that's just come in, but first of all, let me just give Will the opportunity to explain a little bit more about the current project that you're working on in Hoddesdon.
Yes, so as long as you can all hear me now, yeah, that's good. So we're building a new bridge in Hoddesdon, which goes on to an industrial estate. We are building this because the existing bridge is not wide enough to articulated lorries to safely pass each other. So they're either bumping up on the curb or having to wait on either side of the bridge. So we are building a new bridge and road on either side. And so we've got big concrete abutments going in. We've obviously got massive amounts of material coming in from road build-up. And then we're going to have a lot of tarmacking to do at the end of the project and the tie-in.
Okay, thank you. That's obviously a big project. It's close to where I live, so I go past there most days. Kai, I've had a question that's come in that is I guess most relevant for you. What type of skills are required in quantity surveying, and how can I improve or learn those skills?
I think I had to think about this, and I think like being quite logical is a very good skill. I didn't necessarily realise before starting my role. It's a very good skill to have. I think not just in quantity surveying, but probably all across. It's just being able to really simplify some of the information you get from other people, because obviously there's a lot of roles like from the engineers and the environmental team and the BIM team, and sometimes you only need a slight speck of what they're trying to give you. So I think being a bit logical and being the fact that you can simplify things and easily process them and get them onto sort of the way you want to see it and what you need, I mean, that's probably the most useful skill. But then I think good attention to detail, good understanding of sort of basic systems like Excel, Word, and sort of just being quite handy on computers, I think is a really good beneficial skill to have before going into the role. Something that I've probably improved on since working here. And I think as well, and obviously good maths, you know, it's unfortunately you just need to be quite handy with your maths, because at the end of the day it's all money, it's all adding, subtracting, multiplying. So that'll be the main things to focus on.
Yeah, I want to pick on something you said there, Kai, about having a basic knowledge of Excel. I always thought I had a very good knowledge of Excel. I thought there were lots of things I was given a book on a beginner's guide to using Excel, and I realised that I knew about 10% of it, and the other 90% of it meant nothing to me. So, what I suppose are the core skills within Excel or within IT that you've learnt whilst you've been in your role? Just so people can sort of kind of benchmark really to what they know already.
Yeah, I think doing some more of the complicated sums and formulas that are in Excel probably, well, some of the things that you can only really learn while you're on the job, because if there's a need for them and it makes your life easier, that's normally the only way you sort of get used to it and start learning it. But I think being able to, yeah, some of the more the complex formulas or sum ifs and count ifs and things like that really do help out yourself really, and it saves you a lot of time rather than manually doing it, and you get Excel to do the work for you at the end.
Yeah, no, and we had an interesting conversation in advance of this live session where I asked you which subjects that you can remember from school perhaps have skills that are related to what you're doing now. Can you remember the answer you gave me? Because I thought that was a really interesting one.
Yeah, I thought more since I started that I really noticed that sort of subjects like history and English, where you're sort of going through documents where you're trying to highlight out things that are specific to what you want to make your point and things like that, and sort of flow through your essay or document. I think that's really helped me come into quantity surveying as well, because we only really want to look at the cost impacts of works on site, and a lot of the time, like I say, when people give you things, they give you the whole list of things they've been working on, and sometimes a lot of it's not relevant to what we want. So I think, yeah, being able to sort of sift through a lot of the information is really, really helpful. And I think sort of I quite like history and English at school, so I found that quite helpful now.
Yeah, good. Okay, thank you for that answer. I've got a question to both of you really, but I'm going to ask Will first of all. So this is a really good question that's come in here. When there is not a need for a new bridge or tall building to design and manufacture, what does your job require you to do in the meantime? So that's a question for both of you. Or are there always projects that are up running for you to be thinking about and planning and preparing for? So Will, first of all.
Yeah, so we have a massive shortage of engineers in construction, especially on-site engineers. So you'll never be without a job, but we do also do a lot of on-site surveys. So if you had a project that people were thinking about investing in, you go out and do a full survey of the land, so you could see sort of where certain landmarks are and what trees need to be avoided and what the land level is, and then you sort of draw all that up and you'd send it off, and you can keep going on then for absolutely months if you have to. You'll always have surveys to be done.
Okay, all right, and Kai, same question to you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of jobs that they could put me on. I think there's a lot of stuff going on in the industry at the moment, but I think as well having a good sort of, where it's a commercial sort of role, it's much to do with finance, things that I can easily slip into a sort of finance role, dealing with payments and things like that. So if there wasn't another job for me to move on to, I'd imagine I'd work in sort of the financing of the company itself, the sort of internal finances.
Okay. And Sam, let me throw this question to you. You've got your hand up anyway, but you've been in the industry for a long time now, for many years now. Are you conscious that there are more and more jobs and projects, happening at the moment and on the conveyor belt going forwards?
Indeed, I think due to the recent COVID situation, I think it's a very sad fact that many industries are going to have to make people go into furlough and perhaps into redundancy. And I think because particularly civil engineering and infrastructure is seen by governments as such a kickstart to the local economies and the UK economy, I think that's seen as a real benefit. And I think even though the economy might be in a bad place, the government will always build new projects because it creates work, it creates jobs for people, and that's what we want in our local areas. We want the availability of work. We want people to be able to go to the local area and get the jobs. And this is why, we're so pleased to be in Hertfordshire at the moment. I'm looking at this week linking with local universities to provide year-long placements for people who are on all sorts of degrees, such as civil engineering degrees, such as environmental degrees, to give them a taste of what they can do, and to get this high-speed 2 on their CV will really help them get jobs in the future. So I believe that infrastructure projects such as bridges, such as railways, such as motorways will always be brought in times of deep economic downturn. So it's a fairly safe industry to go into.
Good. Okay. Well, that's obviously a really positive and reassuring message to give across to everyone, Sam. I want to change direction slightly, just to talk about both of your, both Kai and Will's routes into the jobs you're doing at the moment, because you said beforehand that you're both on an apprenticeship scheme or have been. So, Kai, could you just talk us through from leaving school to the current point where you're about to embark on a degree level apprenticeship? I know. So, could you talk us through that journey?
Yeah, so I left sixth form after getting my A levels, and I wasn't too sure of what to do. I knew I didn't want to apply to uni, and I didn't apply with UCAS and things like that, so I didn't have a place or uni to go. So I knew I wanted to do an apprenticeship, mainly just because of I wanted to see what the actual day-to-day job would have been like having completed the apprenticeship, rather than do a degree and sort of 3-4 years later find out that I don't really like the role that I've done all the work for. So yeah, so I worked for a few months for sort of a tree surgery company, labouring, while I was applying for apprenticeships in construction. And it was then that I sort of spoke to one of a family friend that said I should consider quantity surveying. So I started applying for quantity surveying roles, and then a few months later I got the job with Align. And yeah, then that's nearly 3 years now.
Okay, and the first, so you did a level 3, was it, to start with?
A level 4 HNC.
Level 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. And the course you're going to be going on to from September?
Is a level 6 degree apprenticeship in quantity surveying.
Okay, so this is the same as having a degree. You're effectively doing the same course that someone who'd go straight to university to do. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so but I'll just be there 1 day a week.
Okay. And do you think that you would have gone on to do that course directly at university without having had the experience and knowledge that you've had?
Probably not. No, because I would never have heard about the role before applying to uni and things like that. So I think that's another. And then the fact that when I got the apprenticeship, I found out that I actually enjoyed doing it, enjoyed the sort of day-to-day work. I think that really sort of pushed me on to follow through with the level 6 apprenticeship. Yeah,
so you now feel in a better position to access a university course, having had that practical hands-on experience in the in the workplace beforehand. Okay. Same question then for Will. Can you talk us through your journey from school? I mean, tell us about your A levels or GCSEs and A levels that you did as well.
Yeah, so I left school after my GCSEs. I then went to West Herts College, where I completed a level 3 extended diploma in civil engineering. I was lucky enough to get some work experience with Osborne at the end of my second year, and on the back of that I was taken on to the apprenticeship. So I've been doing the same course as Kai, I believe, at level 4 in construction management, the HNC. So that's been 2 years, and I've coming to the end of that now. I'm also doing a level 4 MBQ in construction site management at the same time as the HNC through my apprenticeship provider.
Okay, thank you. Now, Stan, let me ask you the question. Both Kai and Will have gone through an apprenticeship route to get into where they are at the moment, but how does that compare to leaving school and going straight to university? What are the sorts of university courses that people should be considering?
So we've talked a lot about civil engineering and quantity surveying. You've learnt about what they do. In terms of the degrees, if we're talking about degrees as opposed to degree apprenticeships where you learn and work at the same time, I think the degrees are, you can look at particular websites. I know that my company looks for civil engineering degrees at Harriet Watt University, and for their quantity surveying route they prefer Nottingham Trent University. So there are all kinds of universities that offer, often in parallel, both the degree itself and the degree apprenticeship. So for example, Anglia Ruskin University will give the degree apprenticeship in civil engineering, or Kingston University will do the same. And often you can find it, if you're interested in the area of design that I was talking about earlier, you can see that lots of related degree courses are related to design, and you can go various routes. You can go down the architectural degree route. You can go down a route which includes design, construction technician, design pathways, and you can, there's at Nottingham College they do a great degree apprenticeship. So there are always two routes here nowadays, because the degree apprenticeship is recognised that lots of young people don't want to necessarily have all of the cost involved in going for a full-time degree. And the degree apprenticeship really provides a useful way of getting on with work and not creating that huge amount of debt that has come up in recent years. Also in design, Nottingham College do the construction technical design in the built environment. That's a degree apprenticeship. So as you can see, if you go on the UCAS website, you can search for an occupational area, and you can search for the area which you like, design or quantity surveying or civil engineering. It will bring up a whole list of all the universities and what they offer, and you'll often see degree and degree apprenticeship, and they're often in parallel. So you can make your own choice, whatever suits you best, whether that's a degree course or a degree apprenticeship. I would recommend that you look on the UCAS website and search out some of the universities and have a little look if you're interested in that kind of area.
Thank you, Sam. And I think the important message to get across there is to have a highly paid and doing a highly skilled job within the construction industry, that there are two very credible routes, whether you go in through as a graduate directly through university, or whether you start a little bit earlier, as both Kai and Will have done, through that degree route, or through apprenticeship route, which may possibly, as in Kai's case now, will now be a degree apprenticeship. Couple of questions that have come in, so I'll ask these to you. First one, either Sam or Kai probably. How many UCAS points do you need to get into a quantity surveying degree apprenticeship? Kai, I'm putting you on the spot here.
I'm not too sure on UCAS points, to be honest.
How would you answer that one, Sam?
I would say go to the UCAS website.
Yeah, so I think, of course, it depends which university you're going to as well, that they'll all have slightly different requirements for what you need to get into. So sorry to only give a sort of a vague answer there, but So lots of different universities will offer lots of different courses, and they'll have slightly different requirements. So the UCAS website, which I'm sure your schools and colleges talk to you a lot about, that's a really good starting point to go to. Next question. Can you explain to me how you enjoyed your construction apprenticeship? What skills have you developed? Well, let me bring Will in for that one first of all. So what do you think the main skills that you've learned through that degree of apprenticeship or apprenticeship route has been?
The biggest one that I've probably learned is problem solving. I mean, I've always liked problem solving, but when you're outside and it's sort of getting late and you've got workers who want to go home because it's Friday, you need to be able to fix whatever's gone wrong there and then. You can't go away and have a half-an-hour meeting about it. I mean, my people skills have got a lot better because you talk to a huge variety of people when you're on site, everywhere from sort of, you've got the clients and you've got the sponsors, all the way down to sort of ground workers. Sometimes there's language barriers with a lot of workers, unfortunately. But they're all really good, but it sometimes takes a couple of minutes to get your point across of what you need them to do, not what they want to do. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest things, and I enjoy it just because I enjoy being able to problem solve. I enjoy sort of seeing something being built, which is why I could never do an office job. With this, I can look out the window and I can see what's happened each day, and you can see progress, which is really rewarding at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, you've obviously got a very tangible idea really of whether you are making progress or not. Other question that's just come in. This is linked to the last one that we tried to answer, Kai and Sam. This one I think you will be able to answer. What requirements are needed when applying for an apprenticeship in surveying? So as an employer, Sam, if someone was coming in as an apprentice, what sorts of skills would you be looking for them to have already? We can't hear you, Sam. He's got your. Well, let me ask Kai until we can get Sam's sound back in there. Kai, thinking about your own personal experiences and maybe some of your colleagues and peers that you've seen come through the apprenticeship route, what do you think were the sorts of skills that you had that sold you to your employer?
I think probably being a little bit confident, having the confidence to be able to, hold your own and communicate with other people. I think being a people person is probably one of the main aspects, because the amount of people you have to deal with each day, and like I say, it's a wide range of people you need to talk to. And I think just having a good sort of logical sense of construction as well, like not being completely in the dark when you start. I think having a good little ground knowledge will do you a world of good. And I think generally being quite logical, quite good at problem solving, and just having that sort of want to do better and want to get stuff done.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So again, it's those sort of personal skills, and it's how you sell those and you demonstrate that you've got those. So not only have we had some really good questions from the audience, we've now got a really good I assume it's a really good answer from the audience there. In response to the UCAS points, someone's just sent in that you need 112 points at Nottingham Trent, BBC in A-levels, and DMM level 3 BTEC. So hopefully that's useful. I'm sure that information is already available on UCAS's website, but thank you very much to the person who's just submitted that in there. I hope that's useful. Another question that's come in, and this one again specifically for you, Kai. Are there opportunities to grow or progress to a better position as a quantity surveyor? How does that work? What's the pyramid like for a surveyor?
Yes, so I think when you join, you're sort of an apprentice or a trainee QS, and then I think once you've sort of finished your degree or apprenticeship, you're normally an assistant. So you sort of probably like that for a few years, and then you work on getting your chartership. And with RICS, which is like the Members Association of Quantity Surveyors, and then sort of gradually after a few years after being an assistant, you'll be a quantity surveyor. And then from that, it's really well, it's varied on time and how much effort you put in, but then it can move up to commercial managers, which are sort of in charge of maybe 1 or 2 quantity surveyors, maybe 3, and then up from that, sort of deputy and commercial directors who will be managing the whole commercial department, you know, anywhere from sort of 10 commercial directors, 10 quantity surveyors, sorry, or even bigger.
Okay. Good. And then I've got one more question that's come in. How would you go into the construction industry after doing GCSE? So Sam, let's try with you on this question. Now, obviously, construction industry is a fairly wide and broad one, but are there any particular subjects that are going to help somebody to gain a better understanding of the sorts of skills that are required in the industry?
So an interest in design, when I talked earlier on about the kind of occupational area of design and what you could expect to earn as a design manager or a design consultant, anything related to design, architecture is a route into that industry within the built environment. Civil engineering really requires areas around maths and science and interest in how things work, problem solving and physics in particular. Quantity surveying, as we've discussed, requires a very logical, kind of almost computational brain to work things out, solve problems and look at maths. If you wanted to look at the sustainability route, we have many opportunities for people who are interested in the environment and sustainability. You can do an environmental sciences degree, or you could look at you know, kind of agricultural sciences even. We've had people come across from agricultural science degrees who've come into the industry. But the great thing about our industry is that it's really flexible. We have a graduate development programme which you can look on the website for. If you look at Bog Fitzpatrick, that's my parent company, and that will tell you all about the graduate development programme. That's largely around civil engineering and quantity surveying that we've talked about today, but there are other areas to look at. Every large construction or built environment company will have their own graduate development programme, and that just generally means that when you finish your degree at university, you've achieved a job, had the interview, been successful, they generally put you on a 2 or 3 year programme within the company. And that is, like with many other big companies, you're rotated around the business to understand how the business works, understand not just about your technical area, but also how a business works. You might sit with finance for a little bit, or you might sit with marketing for a little bit. You understand how your business really works. And also, as a group of graduates, and these days, apprentices, so graduates and apprentice groups often come together a few times a year for training and support, and that training and support will be in softer skills like leadership and management, and that will be around best use of time. So those softer skills that you don't generally get fresh out of university, you will be trained in those areas and looked after properly as a graduate for 2 to 3 years. Similarly, when you're an apprentice, we recognise that you need those extra skills to really become the leaders of the future of our businesses. Does that answer the question, Gareth?
I think it does. Yeah. If anyone wants to ask a follow-up question to that, please do. I've got 2 more questions on my dashboard. So if we answer these 2 and there are no further questions, then we'll finish the session there. So if you have got any more questions lingering that you want to ask, please submit them now so we can get them across to our panelists. So firstly, and I think this is one I'm going to ask you to answer as well, Sam. Which companies are you more likely to find a QS apprenticeship, quantity surveyor apprenticeship, as apprenticeships are very hard to find? So if you keep an eye on the Align JB website, which is, I'm not plugging your own roles, but we do have some coming up. So look on www.alignjb.com. In the next couple of months, we will be looking for a quantity surveyor apprentice. So there is a definite role coming up here, and we will look to put someone in place for September for the apprenticeship there.
even though it won't have the words degree apprenticeship on it, because we want to look at the right candidate, get the right person for the job first, and look at the route that Kai has told you about, which is the initial route onto the level 4, and then we will put them onto the level 6 to eventually get their chartership in quantity surveying. So that will be the route for that. For other companies, it's clearly difficult at the moment. Not very many companies are actually recruiting. But I would keep an eye on the main contractor websites. I'll give you a list of some of the main well-known contractors that have really good degree apprenticeship programs for quantity surveyors. If you look on Balfour BT website, look at Balfour BT Careers, Google that, and look on their early careers pages. They will have apprenticeship opportunities and graduate opportunities side by side for quantity surveyors. If you also look at Morgan Sindall, MorganSindall, they're another large contractor which offers a structured programme for apprentice quantity surveyors and for degree quantity surveyors. Look on those websites. Another area which is based quite locally in Hertfordshire, another main contractor is Wilmot Dixon, WIMMOTT DIXON. They again have a really structured degree quantity surveying and apprenticeship quantity surveying program. So you might like to look at some of those companies, keep an eye on when they come up. Ideally, this time of year, they will be looking for degree and degree apprenticeships in all areas, particularly quantity surveying and civil engineering. Unfortunately, this year it's been a bit of a funny year, so just look out on the websites, maybe put an alert on if you can.
Yeah, I don't know whether these are visible. It's the first time I've used it on the chat facility. I've just typed in those companies that Sam's just mentioned. So I just suggest you go and Google them, maybe put the careers in after them, and you'll find that they should come up and you should be able to find those as they come up. Sam, just touching back on something you just said then, this time of the year, in normal circumstances, the summertime, is that the time to be looking for degree apprenticeships ahead of, is September usually when they would start, or does it tend to be a 12-month rolling thing?
It's very interesting with degree apprenticeships. We've noticed that a lot of the providers that provide these apprenticeships, whether it be universities or private training providers, they are generally the more traditional universities will start their degree apprenticeships in September. However, there are other training providers who are extremely good, who will advertise their vacancies around the year. So in my last project at Luton, we took on degree apprenticeships quantity surveyors, and they started their programme in January. So that training provider was advertising for their vacancies all year round. So September starts, January starts, and that tends to be really useful for an employer, because we don't like just waiting for one time in the year to start these people. We need them all year long. So it's changing. It used to be September start for everything, so you'd start as a student to be looking on websites around about March, April time to now. March, April, May, June is the prime time for us recruiting our graduates and our apprentices. But things are changing, so look, and I really would advise to look on the National Apprenticeship website. Please Google NAS, National Apprenticeship website. There is the best place to find all apprenticeships, and then just search on quantity surveyor or civil engineering.
And all of the information, you can get to that page by going through the hot site that we spoke about at the start of the session as well. That's a good starting point for you. Right, a couple more questions have come in, and I do want to ask all of them because they're really good questions, and it's important that we do ask them. So I'm going to ask this one to Will and to Kai. Would you recommend going to university or doing an apprenticeship for the construction industry? So Will?
Yeah, I'd recommend both. I've got friends who are at uni. We've got a graduate engineer on site, and she has finished her master's. So we've got all different types, and I've seen it from different perspectives. I would say that university, if you're studying civil engineering, is more preparing you to be a design engineer. So you sat in an office and you create the drawings that you give to the site team. Or we do have a lot of graduate engineers who go into site management. Since the on-site sort of engineers just seem to be taken up by people who tend to do apprenticeships. Don't know if it's because they get more experience on site, because a lot of universities don't tend to focus on the setting outside of it. It's more sort of design and contracts and things like that. But yeah, university is a great route to go for. I've really enjoyed my apprenticeship. I had a choice of both. I got university places and I got apprenticeship places, but I chose the apprenticeship just because I didn't want the debts, and it's worked out well for me.
Good. And Kai, anything you would say in contradiction to that, or would you agree with what Will's just said?
No, I think I agree. I think it's based on, I think who you are, what you prefer. I think a lot of people would rather go to uni, and a lot of people would rather sort of start working on site and getting experience in the actual day-to-day role. So I think it's sort of dependent on what you want to do and how you feel about it, really.
Okay, good. And then Sam, a flip question to that that's just come in as well. Do companies prefer to take on graduates or apprenticeships? Or perhaps you could say, from an employer's perspective, what's the difference between taking on a graduate or taking on an apprentice? Why would you take one over or the other?
It's really to echo what Kai just said. We are aiming for the best, most talented people. And the world is more about choice these days. It's not just about going to university because that's the route that your parents took. This is about, as Kai said, what suits you best. If you want to get on into the world of work, start earning some decent money, and start getting into the excitement of a day-to-day job, then a degree apprenticeship would be a great route for you. However, if you want to go to uni, do the traditional study, do that too. Employers these days really have, in the old days, maybe 5, 8 years ago, companies such as mine, major contractors, looked at graduates primarily. That has all changed in the last 5 years. We're now looking for people with the best talent, and whatever suits them, whether that's the earn and learn apprenticeship route, or if it's the graduate route coming in direct from university, we don't mind. We treat everybody the same. We now, as I said, we have our graduate programs. Our apprentices are included in those graduate programs. These people are being prepared for life as leaders of our future, of our companies. And we prize talent above everything else. If you've got those problem-solving skills, if you think you're going to get the most out of every day, if you're prepared to work hard, get up early, really, I would advise that you think about construction in the built environment.
Okay, that's a really good and really positive message to come across there, Sam. Final question, which again I think is going to be for you again, and I was hoping this question would come up because it has done every other week so far. How should somebody try to gain some work experience within the industry? What tips would you give to anyone who wants work experience?
That is a fantastic question. On a major infrastructure project such as High Speed 2, like the project we're on at a Line joint venture, we do advertise work experience placements and placements on our website, so keep an eye out for that. Another way to get involved is we often go out to work with schools, and often when I meet school and college students, they will talk to me and I will give them my email address, and they will send their CVs and see and I go to careers fairs. People give me their CVs all the time. My job is to create as many of those work experience opportunities for 4 weeks, for example, or a couple of months over the summer. I will do my utmost to help anyone get some experience on site. My difficulty is working with my teams. They're under extreme amounts of pressure to get deadlines done, and they will often tell me they don't have the capacity to give an apprentice enough time to show them exactly what they're doing. So we'll try and work around that in many cases. What I would advise that you do is look at those major contractor websites that I told you about earlier: Balfour Beatty, Wilmot Dixon, Volker Fitzpatrick, Morgan Sindel. Look on their website, find a contact email, send your CV. I can guarantee that it will get to somebody in the right department at some point. really construction companies are open to trying to help people to gain this kind of valuable work experience opportunity. If you do well on the work experience and manage to get a work experience opportunity, if you do well, it's all about progression for us. If our teams have really enjoyed that young person, can see a spark, can see some talent in them, they might be invited back for a year placement during a university sandwich course, or, you know, there's a relationship there. So I would advise anyone to take the plunge, take the initiative, go on these websites and find a contact email and send your CV. You never know what might happen.
Okay, Sam, in answering that question, we had a question saying, could they have your email address? Perhaps as this is going to be recorded live and it will go out on YouTube, what I'll do is, all of you that are in attendance at the moment, if you're happy with me to do this, Sam, I'll follow up with your teachers and careers leaders at your schools to let them know that you've attended this session, and then I'll provide Sam's email with that so that you can then contact her. So that would just be for those of you that are in live attendance at the moment, as long as, Sam, you are happy for me to do that. So just to end on work experience, Will and Kai, if it's not possible for someone to actually gain that formal work experience on site, what are the sorts of little activities that people might be doing in their own time that they're not thinking about, that are actually really related to the skills that you're doing now, that might be, you know, a really good thing to talk about when you're actually looking for a job in a few years' time? So, Will, anything that comes to mind?
So problem solving, so sort of quizzes, sort of puzzles in the newspaper, things like that is a massive part of still what we do. You need to be able to just look at something and work out sort of the issue. And a lot of people will do little games and things like that, even if it's on their phones, Sudokus, things like that. They will subliminally be doing it, and so work on sort of mind games and things like that. Keep yourself sharp, and that's probably the best way to get ready.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good. Just before I ask Kai to answer the same question, I put up a final poll on there at the moment, which is just asking whether, based on what you've heard this afternoon, do you feel that the construction built environment sector is one you'd like a career in? So if you could just have to answer that question if that's possible as well. And then Kai, sort of finally from you, any sorts of skills or things that you might do in your own time that are linked to what you're doing now that could be seen as good actual experience of the job?
I think Excel would be a big one for me. I think I've been using it every day since I started. So I think even trying to make your own little spreadsheet, even if it's just your own sort of budgets, or you're sort of acting if you're pricing up something, or I think just trying to really get to grips with that, and sort of the other little Microsoft Word and things like that, and really perfecting those sort of skills will really help you out once you get into construction, because I think for a lot of people it's to learn on the job like I did, but I'd have much preferred to have a good understanding, or very good understanding, before I started.
Yeah, okay, so I think that's probably a good message to leave you with here as well. Do try and be really proactive and try and get those work experience opportunities. So be proactive, look on the websites that Sam's mentioned to you, but then think about the other things that you can be doing that aren't actual formal work experience that may link into some of the skills that we've talked about here. One very, very quick question, because it's very specific and it will require just a short answer. How long does a quantity surveyor degree apprenticeship take to complete, Kai?
So if you're going from scratch, it's 5 years after A levels. If you go the route I did, it's the same time, but you'll do 2 years doing the construction level 4 HNC like Will has done, but then I've sort of spiraled off into quantity surveying, which is another 3 years.
Okay, all right, thanks for that answer. This session has been recorded. It will be available via our YouTube channel, which can be accessed via Hop at the moment. So we'll show you on screen a QR code that you can take a picture of with your smartphones, and then that will take you directly to the site. It'll probably be available tomorrow morning. You'd also be interested to know that all of our previous webinars we've recorded are also live on there. 2 weeks ago, we did one specifically on engineering, including one of Will's colleagues. So if engineering is the particular area of interest for you, you may well want to go and have a look at that one as well. So it's available via, if you click on that QR code there, it will take you to our virtual employer encounter screen. Click on the one you're interested in and the video will come up. Finally from me then, just to say, firstly, thank you to all of you in attendance today for taking the time out on what's a lovely day outside to take part in this. We hope it's been really, really useful for you. I'm pleased from the poll that all of you that have responded to that one have said that yes, this is an industry that you are very interested in pursuing. So Kai, Sam and Will, you've done a very good job of inspiring our attendees today, and we hope that anyone watching back on the YouTube video will be equally as inspired to go into it as well. So finally, thank you to Kai, to Will and to Sam for giving up your time this afternoon. We hope you found it really, really useful, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Goodbye.